What's up, guys? Welcome back to Rip City Rundown. We are doing our second video on a kind of deep dive of a certain team and how we think the Blazers could possibly make some moves with them. Today we're going to be talking about the Toronto Raptors, and specifically, obviously the two big names from that team is Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby. If you follow our Instagram, you saw that a Raptors source was saying that Pascal Siakam should be a player that is viewed as possibly on the trade market this offseason, as the Raptors didn't even make the playoffs and don't really know what direction they want to go. Do they build around Scotty Barnes? Do they still try to win with this wing, just all these wings on the roster? So if you saw the Nets video, you'll see how it goes. We'll pull up the trade machine. We'll do some mock trades, and we'll see how both teams can possibly make a deal done.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this roster. They have a lot of forwards. Siakam makes $35 million a year, which is double what OG makes. I didn't know that, to be honest. And then just loads of small forwards. Obviously, this like Scotty Barnes listed as small forward, plays center for them. This team just doesn't make sense on paper, and they had a chance at the deadline to trade with teams, including us, and decided not to. And I think that's going to come back to bite them. I guess, they just thought they could get whatever they wanted for OG, which was rumored to be 3 first-round picks, which is out of this world. That's ludicrous. No one's going to do that. With that being said, if you're the Blazers, you need to revisit this starting now. Draft lottery is, in 2-3 days? Draft lottery is in 3 days. So you're gonna know what kind of pick you're gonna get, what kind of value your trade pick will have. And obviously, in the trade machine, we can't trade firsts in here. So if we're just going through it, you're obviously let's start with Siakam. We're looking to get Siakam here. Who do we have to deal? Simons for sure.
I think just like if you're trying to get Mikal Bridges, you have to start with Simons, basically because of the contract. And I want to go ahead and say from the jump, I don't think, maybe unless you're trading for Siakam, you're not trading Sharp for OG. I remember that was a big rumor back before we even drafted Sharp. It was, can we trade the 7th pick for OG? And we wanted to do that. We were advocating for that. And honestly, the Raptors missed on that, because I think if you're the Raptors right now, you would probably rather have a 19-year-old Shane Sharp that has superstar potential compared to OG, who's very valuable around the league, and every team would want to have him, but he doesn't have number one option star potential like Sharp does.
No.
And I don't think the Blazers would, in any world, do a Sharp for OG trade.
Yeah, at
now
this point.
You could argue they do a Sharp in a Siakam deal, but I think you have to start off with Simons due to the contract. Obviously, with Pascal making $35 million, you have to add another player. And you could argue that player is Jusuf Nurkic, because the Blazers also at this point, they really have 3 trade pieces, I would say, if you're not trading Sharp, and that's Simons and Nurk and Nas. And obviously that works right there. Picks could be added too. Where do you see the whole Siakam and his trade value at? Because obviously he's been an all-star. I don't really know what tier
I think
Siakam is in terms of player.
If you did Simons and Nurk in a deal, I think you'd have to include at least, is 2 firsts too many?
I don't think so.
Would you Simons, Nurkic, and 2 firsts for Siakam? Would you do that? You're emptying a lot there, because that's 2 starters that are leaving and 2 potential Shane Sharps. You don't know how bad this team's going to be if they don't get better, which is going to be bad. But if you look at this Raptors roster, they don't have a traditional center. Now, I'm not saying Nurkic would interest to them. I think maybe if you went, now again, I can't do picks on here, so this is going to look stupid. But even if you got someone that's not as great back, say like a Otto Porter, Otto Porter Jr. He's someone who can, let's just see if this trade works. This is not straight up. This would include draft capital for sure. It is successful. We get, again, Otto Porter doesn't change anything, but if you're gonna, I feel like Nurk would be kind of that, I don't want to say sweetener, because I don't think Nurk can be a sweetener in any deal, but I think he's just an addition, an additive piece to a trade with the Raptors, because again, if you look at this roster, they have Jakob Poeltl now, but
obviously
expiring.
I'm pretty sure he's going to be a free agent.
He'll be a free agent.
Or he has a player option.
Van Vliet, Gary Trent, Jakob Poeltl. Their only center they have next year. They also have Will Barton. I just realized is Koloko. So even though Nurk is not a great player at this point, his value is low. I mean, I'm sorry, Nurk's a good player, but because his value is low, I think you could throw him in a deal, maybe get someone like an Otto Porter Jr. back, kind of at the bottom part of the deal, where like you're sitting on a center, you're bringing back maybe a bench piece. That's interesting. But Simons, at least for Siakam, it's going to be Simons and or Sharp. I don't think you do both. No, it'd be Simons, maybe another player in draft capital, or Sharp. Do you think Simons in 3 first or Sharp in 2 first? Which would you rather do?
Probably Simons in 3 first, but also you obviously can't just do Simons for Siakam straight up just because of contracts. I think the interesting thing in a Siakam trade, or in that specific trade we were looking at, is one, I think something that Portland should try to do is obviously get the star, but try to get depth along with the star. If you can throw in an Otto Porter in a sweetener deal, or when we were looking at the Nets, if you could try to get like I know this is a big shot, but like a Dorian Finney-Smith, you want to try to get as much depth as you can because that was a big deal with our team last year. Another thing is I'm very curious to see if we do go after a Pascal Siakam, how does that work with the Jeremy Grant, and where do we go with there? Do we move Jeremy to the 3?
Go Grant to the 3.
And I think that's something that the team or fans of the team are a little scared about, but we've always had an issue with being small.
Why not get big?
Don't be scared to go big.
Let me say this. Jeremy Grant is what, 6'8"?
Yeah.
6'8" is a normal.
And I want to say Siakam's probably 6'9".
Yeah, like that's solid. I mean, would you rather keep trying the 3 guard experiment, or like a 6'5" 3, like a Josh Hart, or do you want to get some size?
And I do think that would be, if you get an athletic center to go along with those two, that could possibly stretch the floor. That's a good front court.
Yeah,
and
with Damon Sharp.
With Damon Sharp in the backcourt.
And Sharp can be that. I don't know who the center would be. Maybe it's just to throw names out, like a Miles Turner type, athletic maybe. Or what do you think? Claxton Bridges, that'd be dope. They're not trading us that, but like a center of like that caliber, where they're not necessarily like a star, but they're just athletic. They can stretch the floor.
Like a Mitchell Robinson tier. I know he doesn't stretch the floor, but
but where's
not
Sharp?
A high quality center, because I don't think that's necessary if you get a Siakam on the team.
Let's discuss OG quick. He's been linked to the Blazers for a while.
I honestly think Nurk. I don't think you're trading Simons for OG. I think this is where you go Nurk, and maybe if your lottery pick drops to 5, or if your lottery pick goes down to 6, and you go at that same trade and you say, hey, we talked about this last year, why not do it again? Because I don't think there's a Shaedon Sharp in this draft that's kind of unknown, that could fall a little bit, even though his talent's high. Then obviously now that even if there was a Shaedon Sharp in this draft, if you're the Blazers, you don't need another Shaedon Sharp in this roster because you're trying to win now. I think OG, maybe you go like Nurk, Nas, and a first. Nurk, Nas, and probably maybe 2 firsts, because you're not getting a ton of value on the player front. Mm-hmm. I don't think at this point you're trading Simons for OG. And if you are, you do like we were talking earlier, you go OG for Simons, or Simons for OG and Porter, or something like that.
Sorry.
So I feel like OG's stock has dropped a lot, and not even by his fault, but just his stock was at an all-time high.
It's similar to the problem we had with CJ. We didn't pull the trigger at the right place. I mean, we still end up, by the transitive property, we got Jeremy Grant from that deal, like ultimately, but there was a time where CJ McCollum was like possibly netting like Paul George. Yeah. I remember. So, I think the Raptors messed up there on the OG front. I would be disappointed if we gave up a lot for OG. I don't think he's a title difference maker. OG to me is like Andrew Wiggins. Good player in the right environment and can help you, but he's not gonna like
if that's the
steal
only
you a
game.
This
offseason, that's not gonna win you a playoff series.
I mean, and we're talking big aspirations here. Like, obviously, I would love OG on the Blazers, but you have to be very specific. You need to if you're going to swing, you need to get a guy that can get you to over the top, because we're not going to you don't have any more do-overs, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Anything else? I think that's good.
Yeah, other than that, there's not many players on that roster, unless you're just going around the edges and you're trading for I don't even know. But the Raptors, I think they don't have the leverage they once had, given the fact that they just missed the playoffs again. everyone knows they're probably wanting to go into a small rebuild and kind of build around Scotty. They're losing Fred VanVleet in the offseason probably. So I think they are at a need for guards. So I think Simons could be a perfect player for them to build around. Put him and Scotty Barnes, get their lottery pick they have this year. So I think there's ways to make a deal work. I would say that one of OG or Siakam will definitely be on the move this offseason. It's just a question if it's gone to Portland. So
that's going to do it, guys.
Just
Messing around. That's what the trade machine's for. I think the Raptors are the biggest team to watch when it comes to the Blazers this offseason. We've been linked with them for a long time. And also, next video will be on the loser of Game 7, Boston and 76ers, because both teams have players.
On that one.
Both teams have players that the Blazers could pounce on if the correct situation arises. So we will see you for that video in the next one.